that's not a good reason. I don't want somebody to just be like, okay, yes, that is truth, but I resent you. And, I can't argue it anymore, so I guess I have to accept it even though it feels wrong. And I'm like, well, no, I don't want you to accept something that feels wrong to you. I want you to draw your own conclusions. I want you to be like, yes, that connects with my understanding of the world. So, there have been many times, and especially recently, where I feel the need to be a specialist, to be able to compete on the same level as those that I believe have more intelligence than I do, or more knowledge about a particular subject, or, greater education, and all these statistics and facts that back them up, and all these years of education. So I really want to be able to say, throw out buzzwords and statistics and facts about the belief systems that I have and I'm trying to teach. Because it's a lot easier to communicate ideas with people when you're like, see, there's scientific proof that can back these claims up. And I'm mostly going off of intuition and my own experiences and so on and so forth. So, on Twitter, for example, I follow several people, and they really do have some interesting discussions that I want to contribute to. The problem is they're coming at this with years and years of data, like statistics and facts, that they can back up their claims with, and I'm just going off of, well, that seems right, and here's this, but I can't prove it. Additionally, I can't fully comprehend some of the buzzwords they use. I think I'm pretty good at it, but honestly, when you're throwing out words like postmodernism every other, post or whatever, it doesn't always make sense, where you're like, well, what exactly do you mean by that? And to a certain degree, I think part of what they're doing is trying to limit the people that can respond to their messages by using such words, where you're confusing people so they don't feel like they can talk. Personally, I see that as a very bad idea. You really want anybody to be able to contribute to the conversation. And that's part of the reason why I try to talk in more layman's terms, really simple, easy to understand kind of words. And even then, I still end up losing people. But when it comes to me, being a specialist, I don't have that education. I don't have those credentials. I can't be like, yeah, I have my doctorate degree in psychology, so you really should listen to what I'm saying about human behavior and, how you can improve and things like that. But there was also a reason why I decided not to pursue further degrees. I mean, I've studied psychology and evolutionary biology and business and things like that, but I stopped when I got my bachelor's. And the main reason for that is I didn't want all these beliefs and theories that other people came up with to cloud my own judgment. I didn't want to be limited by the belief structures that, say, the psychology courses put on you. And I'm sure to a certain degree they don't actually believe that they're putting those limitations on you, but from my experience, education has a lot to do with studying somebody else's ideas, memorizing them, and then spouting them back in some regularized test. And while there might be some value in that, I definitely think when it comes to scientific fields, it's much better to come at it with an open mind, with a world of experience outside your field as well, rather than just, 10 years studying that one subject. And to a certain degree, you're never going to understand something, even with the 10 years under your belt. So what I decided to do was, instead of getting this education and, being able to get the credentials that I can wave around and be like, hey, see, I do know what I'm talking about. Instead, I was like, I want to come to my own conclusions. I want to go through my life experience and find the things that I think are correct, and then see if I can maybe formalize them a little bit more so that they're believable to me even. And I think I've done pretty well, but it's not like I'm going to be like, yeah, 2 out of 5 people do this or that, or that this one specific thing is going to change the world, and if you kill all the elephants, then that'll help fertilize the soil or whatever. And there are all kinds of things out there like that. I definitely view science with a bit of caution, and I think that's a good thing, because science can really be skewed to make claims that aren't necessarily a conclusion you should draw from a study. So, yeah, I didn't want to be clouded by all that information and all that misinformation. I mean, we take so much as truth, as undeniable, and I think that's a bad idea, because eventually we hit walls. I mean, we kind of have in the physics world, where we've hit a wall and they're like, well, I don't know how to move past this. And I'm like, well, hey, if you didn't limit yourself to only studying this minute sector of science, you might actually be able to find something to help you move past it, and so on. Part of the reason why I decided to do this was also because I liked having a really broad perspective. I liked being able to draw from all these different categories of study and, keep pursuing things that I find interesting to help improve and formalize my own understanding of the world. So through that process, I've come to understand that everybody I come in contact with has something to teach me in one way or another. Everybody I come in contact with has a different perspective. And by trying to understand their perspective, I can better understand the world, because that's one more perspective that I didn't even consider before. And there's more than likely going to be a significant amount of overlap in our belief systems and, what we understand. But there's also going to be significant amounts of difference, which is where we can both grow. They try to understand me, I try to understand them. And I think that the specialists of the world are kind of limiting themselves by not recognizing that every perspective is valuable, and by trying to limit the communication field to those that can keep up with them. And, even for people like me who more than likely do keep up with them pretty well, it's just I don't know what they mean by specific words and so on. Even I am intimidated by that, and I'm less likely to add my voice to the conversation, which means that the conversation is now lesser than it could have been. So it's humorous to me at times that I think that I should be able to spout these statistics and facts and, force these belief systems down somebody's throat by throwing all of these truths in their head until they can no longer refute my claim. And I'm like, but honestly, do I want that? Do I want somebody to believe me just because they can't argue with me anymore? That's not a good reason. I don't want somebody to just be like, okay, yes, that is truth, but I resent you. And, I can't argue it anymore, so I guess I have to accept it even though it feels wrong. And I'm like, well, no, I don't want you to accept something that feels wrong to you. I want you to draw your own conclusions. I want you to be like, yes, that connects with my understanding of the world, and I understand where you're coming from. You logically led me through this process, and now I'm understanding you and the world a little bit better. And I want the same thing, when I talk to you and state my truths in a logical way that you can understand, you can now talk back to me and be like, well, hey, I think you missed something. I saw this one aspect that maybe you didn't see before. And by not trying to force my belief systems on you, and you there in turn not trying to force your belief systems on me, it's no longer a battle of wills. Instead, we're both trying to learn and grow. It's not about who's right or wrong. It's about, well, that's an interesting idea. Let's work through it a little bit more, so that we can both learn something new here. And in some sense, you kind of have to get rid of the ego to do that. You have to separate yourselves from your belief systems and, deal with your emotional and spiritual connection to things. And I know that sounds a little wonky to some, but it's this concept of intuition. And if you look at intuition as a basic understanding of intuition, it's a natural response based upon your own experience and environment to something. So if you believe something strongly, your intuition is going to guide you and it's going to alert you when something resonates with that belief structure, that internal kind of irrefutable truth that you have come to within yourself. Which is not to say that intuition can't be wrong. I mean, it definitely can be. But that you have to recognize that the truth that you hold inside of you has value. You know, it has helped you get to this point in your life. So it's probably a good idea to keep relying on it, to keep trusting that gut feeling and trusting yourself to know how to move forward, how to navigate through the world. And a lot of that has to do with recognizing your voice and your perspective as valuable. And it could be valuable just because it's different from everybody else's. There doesn't need to be another reason for your voice to be valuable. That alternate perspective might be exactly what's needed to help somebody to grow past their own limiting belief systems. So when I'm struggling with this concept of being a specialist, it's kind of like saying that my perspective isn't valuable, which is ridiculous because, you know, I'm told fairly often that things that I've said are interesting and made somebody think and helps them understand something in a new way, which means I'm actually getting validation from other people saying, yes, this is valuable and I'm really glad you talked to me about it. And ultimately, if what we're trying to achieve in our world is forward movement, you know, personal development, peace, technological growth, you know, all these things, that all requires movement forward. That all requires a focus on discovering what it is we don't know and listening to the perspectives of other people that can help us reach new conclusions faster. You know, it doesn't help for us to be staying in our own mindset because you can't know where you're wrong. And that's simply something that I've recognized as I've kept learning, is that the more I learn and understand, the more I realize just how little that information is in the broader spectrum of knowledge. You know, the more I learn, the less I know, kind of thing. The more I recognize that I don't know. And I think that a lot of people actually struggle with that concept too, is that they struggle with this concept that they don't know, and when you don't know, you feel uncertain, and then you're more than likely going to fight back when, say, somebody disagrees with you. You're going to be like, no, I have to protect this belief system because I don't know how to do it, and therefore, you know, if it disappears altogether, I'm going to fall apart and be lost in the chaos of my own mind. So it kind of makes sense to fight to a certain extent, but you know, it's probably not the best idea if you want to grow. So definitely keep in mind that no matter what your background is, no matter if you are a specialist in any given field, or, you know, a high school student with a thirst for knowledge, which is similar to where I'm at, you know, a post-college graduate with a thirst for knowledge, but your perspective is valuable. Just because you don't have all these credentials and facts and statistics doesn't mean that you don't have something to say, and it's actually important that you add your voice to the discussion, and I'm sure that many will disagree with me on this concept. But, you know, obviously they're not my audience. So, if you're willing to at least percolate on that idea and start to recognize that your perspective is unique and valuable merely because it is yours, and that you do have something to add, possibly even because you aren't entrenched in a certain subject so deeply that you can't see out of it. So that's where I'm going to leave you today. I hope you found this video helpful and informative, and I hope that it at least gave you something to think about, you know, somewhere to go that you can consider and learn a little bit more about. And that sentence came out a little bit convoluted, but I think you might understand where I'm coming from with that. If you want to keep seeing more videos like this, definitely head on over to my Patreon page and contribute to my work as a financial subscriber to this project. It's definitely something that I'm excited about. I want to see what you guys have questions about, and work together to come to new understandings and grow, because honestly that's really what I want. I want to grow, and I want to help you to grow. That's a really inspiring idea to me. So I hope that you consider contributing to my cause, and I hope that you like this video and that you subscribe and then click that notification bell so that you are notified when new videos are posted. I'm trying to do one a week at this point, publishing on Fridays at noon, so keep your eyes open for that. And I want to leave you with this question. Does this concept make sense to you? Does it make sense that your perspective is valuable, and do you think that you might be a little bit closer to accepting just how valuable your perspective is? It's a challenging question, I know that, but I hope that you do leave a comment below telling me where you're at with this system. Leave questions if you have them, and I will see you again soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.